Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here tonight. Welcome to Secrets of the Octopus with Sy Montgomery, presented by the New England Aquarium Lecture Series. I'm Jordan Baker, and I'm an aquarist here at the New England Aquarium with the Permanent Galleries team. We care for octopuses, lobsters, and a number of other cold marine animals. The aquarium is a nonprofit conservation organization that has protected and cared for our ocean and marine animals for more than 55 years. We share our ocean conservation mission with more than 1.2 million visitors every year, with the goal of inspiring them to love, respect, and act for the ocean. We are delighted to be hosting this talk tonight and grateful for the Lowell Institute, whose support allows the aquarium to offer these programs free of charge. Our speaker this evening, Sy Montgomery, is a dear friend of the aquarium who shares our passion for protecting the blue planet. Sy is here to discuss her most recent book on octopuses, Secrets of the Octopus, and to share personal insights from her extensive study of octopuses and some new scientific findings. Sy Montgomery is a naturalist and award-winning writer who has made it her life's work to better understand animals and their habitats. Sy is a naturalist and award-winning writer, and we go way back. Her first best-selling novel, The Soul of an Octopus, was a National Book Award finalist and was inspired by her time here as an octopus observer. Over the course of her research for 39 books and scores of articles and scripts, she has been chased by an angry silverback gorilla in Zaire, handled a wild tarantula in French Guiana, swam with electric eels and pink dolphins in the Amazon, and worked in a pit crawling with 18,000 snakes in Manitoba. Described by the New York Times as equal parts poet and scientist, Sy has received dozens of awards for her work, including the 2024 Cook Prize Gold Medal, the 2021 Sarah Josepha Hale Award, and the 2017 Henry David Thoreau Prize for Literary Excellence. She has also been awarded 4 honorary doctorate degrees. It is my honor to welcome Sy for tonight's talk.
That was wonderful to be introduced by somebody who I simply adore and with whom I spent the afternoon communing with the current octopus. So in 2011, right here at our aquarium, I met someone who would not only change my life, but ended up having a profound effect on human culture, popular science, and our understanding of minds unlike our own. Her name was Athena, and if she stood up, she would have only stood about 4 feet tall, weighed maybe 40 pounds, but she was unlike anyone I had ever met before because she could change color and shape, and she could pour her baggy, boneless body through an opening smaller than an orange, and she had venom like a snake, ink like an old-fashioned pen, and could taste with every inch of her skin because Athena was a giant Pacific octopus. So when I first met her, Bill Murphy, who was then the czar of the cold marine, was not in. So Scott Dowd, who reigned next door in freshwater, opened the lid to her tank. And this gorgeous creature came flowing over to meet me. She turned bright red with excitement, and I saw her pearly eyes swivel in its socket and find mine. And so I asked, can I touch her? Because all these beautiful pearly suckers were boiling up out of the water. It was clear that she wanted to touch me. And Scott said, sure, go ahead. So I plunged my hands and arms into the freezing cold 47-degree salt water and was soon greeted with the soft, silky touch of dozens of white questing suckers. And they were not just touching me, they were tasting me. Now, I realize not everyone would have necessarily liked this, but I was elated because it was obvious to me that this creature was just as curious about me as I was about her. And I wasn't at all frightened. And soon I could see that she wasn't frightened either, because she let me stroke her head. And when she did, she turned white beneath my touch. And white is the color of a relaxed octopus. Well, I was thrilled because even though Athena and I last shared a common ancestor 500 million years ago, back when everybody was a tube, I was hoping to make friends with her, to meet the mind of an octopus. And this was something that, remember, 2011, a lot of scientists and philosophers were not comfortable talking about animals having minds at all. I knew very little about octopuses then. I did know that the plural was octopuses and not octopi, however. But I did know that they were reputedly very smart. So this is what gave me the idea to try to meet the mind of someone that different from me. And by meeting the mind, what I wanted to do was become friends with an octopus. Now, this is the kind of thing that some people would say, you're crazy. How can you be friends with someone that different? To find a creature less like a human, you'd have to go to outer space or science fiction. Their head is where you think their abdomen should be. They have no bones. They have 3 hearts. They can change color and shape. They're incredibly, incredibly strong. Many people believed for years they were monsters, and they do have monstrous strength. Each sucker, a big sucker, like a 3.5-inch sucker, can lift 30 pounds, and there are 200 on each of a giant Pacific octopus's arm. And each one of these suckers is not only strong, but capable of a pincer grip. So they can actually untie knots in surgical silk. How could I be friends with someone like this? But what I wondered really was, why would someone like that with incredible superpowers, why would she even want to be my friend? Well, it turned out that this was the start of 3 years of intensive relationships, getting to know octopuses, so that I really did consider them friends. And not just the octopuses, but the people here at New England Aquarium taught me so much. I began visiting them regularly so that the octopuses got to know me, welcomed my arrival. I learned scuba so that I could meet octopuses underwater in the wild. But most of my work was actually done right here at our aquarium, where I got to know each octopus as the individual that they were. Now, Bill Murphy, the octopus keeper and my friend now, who is here with us tonight, who preceded Jordan and taught her what she knows, he had named Athena after the goddess of war, and she was a feisty octopus. I didn't get to know her that well because, as you may know, octopuses don't live that long. A giant Pacific octopus might live only 3 to 5 years. And by the time you meet the octopus, they're usually 6 months, 10 months, 1 year, 2 years old. The reason is they hatch out of these tiny eggs the size of a grain of rice, and they live a planktonic life. So there are no giant Pacific octopuses who are hatched in captivity. And by the time you find them and bring them on exhibit, they already are wise in the way of the world, but they're quite advanced in age. They're usually at least subadults, if not adults. But I did get to know her successor, whose name was Octavia, and here she is. She was a fabulous octopus. At first, she didn't want anything to do with me. She was quite shy. And we tried to get her to accept a fish from my hand. She wanted nothing to do with it. We tried several different times. Nope, no doing. Then Bill suggested we put a fish on the edge of on a grabber and extend that. Well, then she grabbed the grabber and then grabbed me and started pulling me into the tank. Well, after that, we were very good friends indeed. Such good friends that there were times when I was away for several weeks. I would go on assignment working on other books. And when I would come back, it was obvious that she was thrilled to see me. We would literally fly into each other's arms, just like would be the case with someone who you haven't seen in a long time. And then we would hold each other and hug each other. Like, is it you? Is it you? It's you. It's so good to be together again. I loved her. Then there was Kali. Now, Kali, she was a young octopus, and she was the octopus in waiting, kind of behind the scenes, waiting to grow up for the time that Octavia would get old and no longer be on exhibit. She was very mischievous, and she would rise to the top of her tank, which was actually a barrel, and try to get out all the time. She was like the foaming head on a beer. Now, in my explorations, besides Bill and Scott, I also worked with this wonderful man. He's gone now. His name was Wilson Menashe. And he actually worked in the artificial diamond industry, so he had a great eye for color. And when he met Karma, the next octopus, he thought she was so beautiful, her colors so dazzling, that even though he was happily married, he confessed he had a crush on her. But this was kind of weird. Why would an octopus want to be my friend? And lots of folks thought that this was crazy. But getting to know them led to amazing stuff I never would have predicted. First, I wrote 3 books about octopuses, including Soul of an Octopus. I wrote also this Octopus Scientist for younger readers and Inky's Amazing Escape for little itty bitty readers. Now, no one thought The Soul of an Octopus was gonna go anywhere. My publisher did not give me a book tour. I financed my own book tour for that, because I wanted to kind of do the octopus ministry and tell everyone about this. But no, it became a huge bestseller. And to my utter shock, it was a finalist for the National Book Award. And this is amazing, because National Book Awards seldom go to natural history books, very, very seldom. In fact, if you look back at the natural history books that have won the National Book Award, it was when they had a special category just for natural history stuff, which they haven't had for years. I got the news in the car driving to the aquarium. We were about to go through the tunnel, and I was with Wilson, and this horrible noise erupted from my purse. I couldn't figure out what it was. Well, my 80-year-old friend told me, it's your cell phone, which had never rung in the past. But my husband, for some reason, knew the number, even though I had never used it, and he had just happened to be walking past my answering machine when my editor called to say, oh my gosh, you're a finalist for the National Book Award. So the very first people to know about it were here. And certainly the cephalopods were very soon after that to learn about it. So this book was freakishly successful. Nobody knew stuff about octopuses. Octopuses were just this strange critter. Folks like Bill did, folks like Jordan did, but the rest of the world, no one had a chance to see or know an octopus. Well, unbeknownst to me, more exciting things were happening beyond that. The book made its way to this 27-year-old self-described neurodivergent guy in New York. His name was Warren Carlyle. And ever since he was 7 years old, Warren had been crazy about octopuses, but he'd never been able to find a really good book about octopuses that didn't depict them as some kind of horrible monster. And when he read The Soul of an Octopus, he said, you know what? I'm having a successful career. He was actually a studio manager for a celebrity fashion photographer. But he said, I have found my calling. And that is to be basically the PR agent for octopuses, for the world. So he founded this octopus fan club called Octonation in December of 2015. And this thing, just like my book, nobody thought was going to go anywhere. Even Warren's own brother was like, don't you think that's a little niche? Well, now Warren has 7 PhD scientists on his payroll for the nonprofit and more than 1 million members across all social platforms, and 500 million people have learned about octopuses from his online offerings, which range for special stuff for kids to amazing photographs from divers to species profiles and all kinds of updates. It's amazing. Well, back in 2015, in spring of 2015, when the book first came out, Scott Dowd gave me this amazing gift. He actually had found the one mug that existed in the universe with a picture of an octopus on it. There was like nothing octopus anywhere. Well, that has profoundly changed because you can find octopus murals and octopus sculptures and octopus art everywhere. You can have octopus hats and octopus necklaces and rings and high heels and shower curtains and towels and tables and bookends and candelabra and tablecloths and stemware. And I know because many of these items are in my house. There have been a slew of wonderful books after mine and fantastic films like My Octopus Teacher that won an Emmy. And there's a wonderful novel. This is just one of the many books that have come out about octopus since mine. It's called Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. And she generously, even though we'd never met, she generously credits our book, researched here at our aquarium, for giving her the idea for her mega best-selling novel, which is going to be a movie on Netflix starring Sally Fields, the flying nun. So the other thing that happened was National Geographic actually got excited about it, and they asked me a couple of years ago if I would write another book about all the new findings since Soul of an Octopus came out in 2015. Now, pretty much everyone agrees that since 2015, we have entered a golden age of octopus appreciation and scientific discovery. This is so exciting, and I got to catch up with a lot of the science that I had wondered about in 2015. And remember, I started working on this in 2011. A lot of my questions were starting to get answered, and I got to write about it in Secrets of the Octopus. And it also has in the back a series of profiles, octoprofiles, of different species written by Warren Carlyle. there are so many other kinds of octopuses, and they're discovering new species every day. They're incredible creatures. They live everywhere. This one lives near hydrothermal vents in the deepest ocean. But they can also be found walking around on land at times. And they're doing the most incredible things. Take a look at this mimic octopus. Now, he's called the mimic because not just with his coloration and pattern, but with his postures, he mimics all kinds of different creatures. And he does this so effectively that sometimes creatures of the species he's mimicking will follow him around looking for a date. And look at this octopus. He's walking around. He's like a commuter trying to catch a train carrying a heavy briefcase. Nobody thought they did this stuff. Some of them are just breathtakingly gorgeous. This one is Warren's, one of his favorite. It's called the blanket octopus. And this is the female. The little male is nothing to look at all. He looks like he's a parasite of her, actually. But she is this incredibly beautiful species. She looks like she's wearing this pearl-strewn, flowing, translucent, celestial gown. And octopuses are displaying their smarts in ways that when I was born in 1958, it was believed only humans could use tools. But here's an octopus who's carrying two shells, which he is going to later use. He's going to put them together. And they sometimes will pick up two halves of a coconut, lug it with great difficulty for a long time for use later. He'll take the two halves and with his suckers pull them closed and make himself a secure shelter. So this shows you not only do octopuses use tools, but they are also thinking of the future. They are imagining a future in which they might be in trouble and making essentially a shelter or a tool to help them with this. And new species are being discovered every year, as I mentioned, and other species that had been sighted in the past, we're now getting new information about them. Look at this cool guy. This guy, and look, see his suckers? Instead of having two rows of suckers like you usually would, like our giant Pacific octopus here at the aquarium and most other octopuses, this one only has one row of suckers. This species is called the glass octopus, and he's entirely see-through. He was discovered in 1918, the year my father was born, but wasn't filled alive and at depth until just a few years ago. And the lucky folks on that expedition actually found two of these mating, and the male had enveloped the female in his interbrachial web. So some of the new discoveries that I got to detail in the new book, they were exciting, they were interesting, but some had special meaning to me because they answered questions I had when I was regularly interacting with my octopus friends here at the aquarium. I was then and remained convinced that I did have a relationship with these individuals, and the relationship was that of a friendship. A lot of people think they can't even be friends with somebody of another political persuasion, but, you know, I believed firmly, and still do, that I'm friends with an octopus. Can you be friends with an octopus? And what's a friendship like anyway? What do you do with your friends? Well, you might get together for a nice meal. Well, that's what we did. Mostly I wasn't eating the squid and fish that I was handing over to my friends, but they were enjoying a nice meal. Sometimes you get together just to do activities you both enjoy. You like to play together, and octopuses famously love to play. Here's an octopus playing with Legos. They like the same kinds of toys that we give to our children. And this afternoon with Jordan, one of the toys that we gave to Taco was a little submarine toy that you might put in your child's bathtub. But for your child, you probably wouldn't put a fish inside of it. So the other thing was that we just enjoyed each other's company. And you can tell if an octopus is enjoying your company. They will turn bright red with excitement. They also turn red when they're mad. But then there's lots of people who do that as well. We know from scientific experiments that octopuses recognize people by looking up at the water, through the water, at their faces. And this was certainly, it was very clear that the octopuses recognized me, that they recognized Bill, that they recognized Wilson. So we enjoyed our time together, but this was so weird because octopuses are famously solitary, or at least so it was thought. It was thought that they only get together to mate or eat each other, and sometimes both at the same time. If you think you had a bad date, just imagine, in Seattle Aquarium, they used to have this thing called the octopus blind date, but they discontinued it because they didn't want someone to eat the other in front of the public. But seriously, I really did wonder, like, what did I have to offer this great being? Why would she want to hang out? Why would Octavia or Karma or Kali want to hang out with this like lame, bony, terrestrial monkey, who can't even breathe water? I can't change color except to turn red with embarrassment, as I well might. What did I have to offer them? Why would they want not even to be with fellow octopuses? Why would they want to be with me? Well, it turns out that octopuses are not nearly as solitary as we thought. And one of the places where this is most dramatically shown is a place called Octopus. It was discovered in Australia, and the octopus species that lives there is called the gloomy octopus, not because he's sad, but because he has big expressive eyes. Elsewhere in Australia, you don't see aggregations of octopuses, but here you do. You see up to 20 octopuses hanging out together, interacting. And what is so cool and interesting about this, and you can read more about this from my friend David Shields' excellent book, Many Things Under a Rock. And also, there's some other books describing this as well as my own. There is one octopus in the octopus town who has the job that David called the quidnook. And quidnook comes from the Latin, what now? It's basically the town gossip. So there's one octopus, and even though they don't live very long, that individual won't persist, but the job of quidnook does, who hangs out and watches what everyone is doing. And if he doesn't like it, he'll interfere and he'll make it right. He's almost like, the town busybody, but also somebody that everybody counts on. So this was very unusual. But it turns out that in the past, there had been some other cases of other species of octopuses who existed not in a solitary way, but in towns of octopuses. Here's one of them. This is called the harlequin octopus, or larger Pacific striped octopus. And when octopuses hanging out together was first described, no one wanted to even print the scientific paper. It was ignored because it was believed that they were solitary. Many other species of octopus, including our friend the giant Pacific, have been now found hanging out together, so they may not be so solitary. But again, why would they want to hang out with me? Well, it turns out we now know that octopuses have relationships with other species, and some of them are really fascinating. Some octopuses hang out with fish who help them hunt. Now, this is an amazing thing. There's several different species that do this. And when it was first reported, no one could believe it, and no one really wanted to even publish it. But now we know this happens. There are fish who will find their octopus friend, signal to the octopus, I've got an idea, let's go hunting. Lead the octopus to a crevice or a coral where the bony fish can't reach, but he knows there's delicious food inside, and the octopus can just flow his arms into that space and then outflood all kinds of tasty treats that both can enjoy. And the fish, some of the fish have absolutely developed a special signal to tell the octopus that this is what they have in mind. And this relationship is so important to the octopuses that if it starts to fail, they get upset, because just a few years ago, there was this hilarious report, which has been seen in several different species, once again, that the octopus gets annoyed with their hunting partner, who perhaps is failing. They haul off and punch him. So this is amazing to me. We are really in this golden age of discovery of octopuses. There is a hunger to learn more about these unusual minds. Scientists whose previous work was ignored are now being celebrated. Scientists like Chrissy Hufford, who actually spoke at this podium years ago, who's made incredible discoveries, but no one was interested in octopuses. Now she admits octopus are really having a moment. So what brought this on? We're often asked this. And it is true that there have been a few really interesting technological breakthroughs. One of them, this is my friend Chelsea Benice, and she's one of Warren's staff octopuses. She invented this great gadget. It's called the OMG, Octopus Monitoring Gadget. And it can monitor an octopus underwater 24/7. And she has caught some amazing stuff, one of which she saw this like enormous predatory bird dive out of the sky at this teeny little octopus. And the octopus, he does not just disappear. He doesn't squirt ink and jet away. What he did was he balled up one of his hands and he socked the bird. It was so brave. But there's not really been like one big technological breakthrough. What I think happened, who we can credit for this, we can credit the octopuses themselves. These individuals can have just as big an effect on their community as a person might. They each have individual personalities, and they all matter. I've got to tell you one last thing about my friend Octavia. Females tend to live longer than males, so I'd known her for a couple of years before one day I came in and Bill had something special to show me. She had laid eggs. These are not her eggs. You can see that they are developing little octopuses in them. These are her eggs. Now, there was no Mr. Octopus, so there weren't going to be any babies, but she tended them assiduously for, well, in the wild, normally a mother octopus lays eggs once. She lays like 100,000 eggs, and she stops eating and she does nothing but tend to them. And this Octavia did for not just 6 months, not just 7 months, not just 8, not just 9. She's stuck in there. And then her eggs began to disintegrate, and her body too began to disintegrate. So Bill made the decision that she shouldn't have to be on exhibit and that she should be allowed to live out the end of her life as a wild octopus would in a dark, calm place. So he took her behind the scenes. Now, for 10 months, she'd been on those eggs and didn't want to play with us. We could hand her food on a grabber, But no longer did she want us to pet her or play with toys. She didn't take food from our hands. She had not looked up through the water at our faces for 10 months. But I still wanted to come in and say goodbye to my friend. So I did. I wondered if she'd even recognize me. And Bill, she saw every single day. I used to come in like once a week. And again, we hadn't really seen each other for 10 months, which is like decades to a person, because they only live 3 to 5 years. But Wilson and I were astonished when we unscrewed the top to her tank, and this old, sick octopus, whose body was falling apart, made the effort to come to the surface. We offered her a fish. She took it in her suckers and just threw it to the side. She wasn't hungry. She came to the surface to touch us and to taste us and to look into our faces one last time. Octavia's life mattered. And even though she is physically gone, and even though she was a marine invertebrate and we are terrestrial vertebrates and we consider our kind so important, her life matters still. I'm going to read to you from the close of Secrets of the Octopus, which was released more than a decade after the deaths of the octopuses I wrote about. On its last page, I remind people of some words Dr. Jane Goodall, who recently died, wrote. She wrote an obituary which ran in the London Times for one of her friends, Flo, who was a chimpanzee. And she wrote, of course, that, Flo gave a lot to science because Jane wrote about her. But her life, rich and full of vigor, would have had a meaning in the significance and pattern of things. And I close my book with these words. This is surely true of Octavia as well, and of every animal, captive and wild, be they in a lab, in a public aquarium, or in the ocean. It is my hope that we can use our scientific findings about their lives not only to enhance human knowledge, as valuable as that is, but also to honor who these animals are. Individuals as intensely wedded to this glorious life as we are, whose lives are as meaningful and as significant in their way as our own. Thank you. Here we go.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful and fascinating. We're so grateful. We were wondering if it'd be okay if we asked you a few questions tonight.
No, I don't feel like it. I don't really like these people. Gosh,
Have
you
some
all.
questions in the crowd. Right here. And I'll just repeat that for our virtual audience. Why is an octopus's life so short?
Boy, that sounds like one of those things that you struggle with in the book of Job, Like, why did I get born with this big nose? I mean, it's one of those unknown things. But one thing that I think about their lives, which seems so brief to us, they are able to be finished and complete in a shorter amount of time than we are. I think this is kind of woo-woo, and you might have a better answer, but because they are taking in so much of life, because they can multitask, because they are tasting the world, experiencing the world in such a rich way, and they are embedded in the ocean and its sensory richness in a way that we are not. maybe they get all the living they need done in 3 to 5 years.
Beautiful. Over here. How can you tell that she was tasting you?
Oh, well, they know that all of the octopus's skin, but particularly the suckers, they have all these chemoreceptive cells embedded in them that allow them to taste slash smell with all of their skin. What that feels like to them, no one knows. But taste seems such an appropriate thing with an octopus because when you think of it, because they have no bones, their muscles, they're not like our biceps, they're like our tongues. And their whole bodies are like these big tongues and conveniently equipped with chemoreceptors.
Do they ever spit anything out?
Well, I think Bill and Wilson and I actually saw something get spit out, but it wasn't actually. Once we saw an octopus apparently sneeze. They do a thing called gill flushing, which is like sneezing. The time that we thought we saw an octopus spitting something out, it was actually pooping. And Alan Alda came here. Bill was here for that. Alan Alda, you know, from MASH. And he also has a wonderful podcast called Clear and Vivid. He came to the aquarium and got to meet some of the octopuses here. And his most fervid question was, where do they poop? And it's out of their siphon, the same way they jet through the sea.
Now we have some virtual questions. So from Leo, he's 8 years old. What is your favorite type of octopus?
Well, I am so imprinted on the giant Pacific. But they're all so cool. What about you, Jordan?
Ooh, I think that the blue-ringed octopus is kind of intimidating, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any antidote for that venom. They're so venomous. And a lot of people don't even know they've been bitten.
Yeah.
So your first symptom is like death.
Love it. Another question. Right in the center here. What does an octopus feel like, Sy?
To me, it feels, you know, you'd think like, ooh, slimy, yuck. But no, it feels like if you were touching a custard, a kind of a wet custard. Yeah, what do you think?
I agree. I think I always share that it feels like the suckers on a bath mat came to life and
Oh,
started.
God. That's great. Yeah, the suckers feel really cool. And the first time I met Athena, I went home and I had to explain to my husband why I came home from Boston covered with hickeys.
Love it. Another virtual question. What is the most important thing humans can learn from octopuses?
To me, it's about the glory of other minds and to never take for granted the intelligence that might lurk in another mind. Realize there's this wonderful saying from Thales of Miletus, the pre-Socratic Greek philosopher, and he said, the universe is alive and has fire in it and it's full of gods. And to me, that says, you know, our universe is full of animated, loving individuals incandescent with life, and all of them are holy.
Another. All the way on the left. Yeah. Great question. So just to repeat that for the virtual crew, um, My Octopus Teacher, which is on Netflix. It's a wonderful documentary, so please do try to watch it if you can. And then octopuses and climate change.
Yeah, that was, I was happy hearing that octopuses had showed up in such numbers. I thought, oh, thank God, our octopus overlords are here. We are saved. Someone who knows about the ocean is now going to be in control. But yeah, everything in the ocean is just so messed up from climate change, and nobody knows what's going on. I mean, even the currents that control the weather and the climate are changing. And I heard that, yes, it was, that these waters were warming and they were getting a whole bunch of, some fishermen were delighted because it's possible to eat octopus, as octopuses themselves have discovered. And so some of the fishermen were like, hey, the thing I'm fishing for isn't here, but here's this other thing that I can sell. This is great. But octopuses are themselves predators. So some of the other fishermen were kind of upset because what are the octopuses going to eat? Which, by the way, is one reason that I'm appalled at the idea of octopus farming, not only because these are my friends and because factory farming is pretty much a horrible thing, period, for anything, but they are, top level predators. And what an inefficient way to make protein for human beings.
We have another virtual question here. How was your session with Taco this afternoon?
Oh my gosh. Taco is the great octopus. Oh my gosh, I hadn't met Taco before today. But Jordan, you make octopuses so happy and comfortable and well-rounded personalities. And Taco came right over. I just slapped the water for a little bit, and you had provided some nice fish and squid, and he flowed over, and out came the arms, and the suckers got to. Oh, it was lovely. He let me pet his head. They don't always let you pet their head, and I could see him changing color too. He was getting lighter, which was just lovely. It was wonderful.
Yeah, he's a good octopus. Another question from the crowd. Way up here. If you had to choose one octopus treat, what would it be?
That I would want? Oh, that I would want. Um, I would love to change color and shape. What about you?
Hmm,
Venom. No.
absolutely. A virtual question asked by several viewers. How do octopuses change color?
Oh man. Well, they have these little cells called chromatophores, as you know, and they're like little pots of paint. And there's muscles around these little pots, and they can kind of open them and reveal a color, or close them and make them disappear. And they can make multiple different colors. They have 3 different kinds of them. There's the leucophores, which reflect light, which they have iridophores, which can create an iridescence, and what are the chromatophores that will show different colors, and they are under their conscious control. However, the cool thing about an octopus is that even though their brains are so different from ours, 3/5 of their neurons aren't even in their brain, they're in their arms. So they don't necessarily have to make a decision, oh, I better make like 5,000 polka dots right now. Wait, I want them to be yellow. Oops, I want them to be red. So am I describing that in a good way? It's pretty amazing. And just around the eye, here we are looking at the octopus eye. I should thank Octonation for a lot of these photos, and also National Geographic. Just around the eye, there are thousands of chromatophores. And why would you want there to be so much opportunity to change color and pattern around your eye? Well, it's because your eye is the thing that a predator kind of looks for. And if you make your eye look bigger, the predator may think you're a bigger thing than you actually are. So they will sometimes do a starburst pattern around the eye. Sometimes they do like an eyeliner thing going on. It's known as an eye bar, which makes their eyes look bigger. And those of us with mascara frequently do that exact same thing. Eyeliner, it's not mascara, it's one of those. You do that exact same thing and make your eyes look bigger by extending a line beyond the lid. And they'll do that, but they don't need the eyeliner.
Certainly masters of camouflage in a lot of ways. Great. Another question. Yeah, right here. Yeah. Have you been able to train a behavior in the octopuses?
Oh yeah, you totally can. I mean, you tell about some of what you've already trained. I mean, Bill certainly trained him to do all different kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so they're so incredibly smart that octopuses aren't very difficult to train. So once they kind of are shown the basics, they kind of take it from there. But we train ours to come over to an accessible feeding platform with just the splash of your hand on the surface of the water. And it's really special because it gives us that attention to detail and their care. And yeah, obviously a nice dinner, as Sy got to experience today.
Yeah, they're so cool, and their mothers don't teach them a thing, because their mothers, if they're still alive when the paralarvae hatch, they use their last breath to blow them out of the lair into the open ocean. So again, 3 to 5 years. In 3 to 5 years, they learn so much. There's few animals in the world that eat such a huge variety of prey, and there's few animals in the world that are preyed upon by so many different animals. They have to outsmart all different kinds of creatures, and they're growing very rapidly. They hatch out of those little eggs the size of a grain of rice, and a giant Pacific can, ours don't get that big, but they can weigh over 100 pounds. Some have weighed 300 pounds, so they grow very rapidly. But during that whole time, they're needing to eat different stuff, and different stuff is eating them. And they have to outsmart everything they eat and everyone who wants to eat them.
We're just going to end with one more question tonight. What new subjects are on the horizon for you, and what direction will your research go in next?
Well, the last bunch of books I did, having, my heart broken by these octopuses that only live 3 to 5 years, the last big book I did was on turtles. So I have 3 new books coming out next year. One is on giant manta rays. I learned scuba thanks to New England Aquarium and octopuses. Another one is a book about caterpillars for young people with the artist Matt Patterson. And the other is a book with National Geographic with Joel Sartori, who did the photo arc. And he invited me to write some essays to go with his incredible, iconic portraits of animals. So we should probably tell you too that we have some books. I signed all of them. So you don't have to wait in line if you want a signed book. It's sitting there, but I'm happy to personalize books for you if you want.
Thank you so much. So, yeah, thank you, Sy. You've shared so much tonight about science and about love for octopuses. We couldn't be more grateful. Tonight's event was made possible with generous support from the Lowell Institute, which allows the aquariums to offer these lectures free of charge. If you enjoyed this program and want to help support our mission, please consider giving to the aquarium at neaq.org. And I'd like to invite our in-person audience to join us in the lobby again. Sy will be personalizing some of those signed books, and it should be really great. To all of us that joined virtually this evening, we're so glad you did. And again, thank you all. Good night.